Welcome to the Go Flush Yourself podcast with Jared Kirk and Matt Milbauer. Welcome to another episode of the Go Flush Yourself podcast. Today, Jared and I sat down with Jon Nguyen. He's an upland hunter out of Southern California. He also has a YouTube channel that I hope you check out. It's really good. Great conversation today with Jon. We really enjoyed talking with him, and we're definitely going to have him on the show again, if not at the end of the season, maybe even sooner. Hi, we're here with Jon Nguyen. And Jon, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hey, so Jon Nguyen or Jon Juan, depending on what your preference is. But I am first off, I guess I'm an adventurer first and foremost. I have a background in, bushy things, bushcraft, survival. That's kind of my entry into the outdoor space. I grew up in Orange County, fishing and exploring the backyard and, using my slingshot to knock down animals, that kind of,
Nice.
Basically all, good young boy kind of stuff. But as far as my exposure, my experience, I grew up in Orange County, in the suburbs of Orange County. So we didn't have, and sorry, I should add, I grew up in the suburbs of Orange County, and to parents that are more of the urban city life kind of nature. I'm first generation. My parents immigrated, and their hobbies today and their hobbies have always been things in the arts, clubbing, hanging out with friends, that kind of stuff. So
Right.
as far as outdoor exposure, for me, it's been, a personal journey and a personal exploration of those things. So, I like to describe myself as an adventurer first and foremost. I grew up spearfishing out on the coast of California. Well, I'm in Southern California, so the coast of California. I came into the hunting space in adulthood. So this isn't something that I had, from my dad wasn't a hunter, my mom wasn't a hunter. This is something that I found for myself from, childhood aspirations from things like reading Field and Stream, hanging out with a cousin, that kind of stuff. So for me, it's been a journey that's lasted over a decade now. And I'm always hungry for like the next adventure, right? So it's one of those things that you always increment from an adventuring standpoint. So I started out with regular, hook and line fishing, then went into spear fishing, then went into bushy survival things. I think that's one of the websites you guys found me on, Hack Outdoors. Yep. It's made for, I think the tagline for it once was outdoor skills for indoor kids, right? So that's kind of a theme for me.
Like that.
And and then it kind of progressed into hunting, and this is both upland and small game, and anything that has me shedding boot leather, finding cool rocks on the ground while also with a gun or a bow in hand is in my lane. Like that's something that I enjoy doing on my time off.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. That's awesome. So, so you're more of an adult onset hunter, like that term is kind of out there, but it seems like you're always was kind of in your blood. Yeah, I said it. That's why I said like it's a term that's out there, because it's like, why do we need to differentiate? Like, we're not different. It's like, I did hunt as a kid with my dad, but does that mean I'm a different hunter than you? Like, no, we're both in the same place, probably roughly the same age, like same generation. Like, we're all hunters, and we all got to it in our own way. So I'm with you on that. Yeah, so I won't use that term again, but it's the common one.
There's certainly a gatekeeping that happens in some cases, right? There's some negative connotation that comes with the adult onset hunter as someone new to the space, influenced by, Meat Eater and influenced by the Rogan types. But At the same time, hunting numbers have been on the decline, and they have been for several decades.
Mm-hmm.
And, representation and dollars, like, you need new blood in the space to be able to have representation, especially here on the West Coast, right? There's not a lot.
Yeah.
Well, I should say, growing up, there hasn't, for me, my experience is there isn't a lot of hunters on the West Coast in, urban cities, LA, Orange County, San Diego. But we kind of live in the pockets. I think since being exposed to hunting and, going full tilt into it, I can spot hunters now, in my neighborhood, right? Like the guy with a real tree camo bucket that's throwing balls for his kid. Like, hey, dude, are you a hunter? And he goes, I sure am, right? So everyone kind of lives in the shadows out here, but there's a lot of us. And surprisingly, as someone that hasn't had exposure to it as a kid, there is a whole bunch of people that are closeted hunters out in, these parts.
It's a good term
for sure. Closeted hunters. Yeah, I like that one. No, it's a good point you brought up a second ago. Like both of my kids have no interest in hunting, and it's not something I've introduced to them, but they have other interests, right? And like my dad, me and my two siblings, like we all hunt, but not all of our kids do. And so that was really before social media, like before Meat Eater and all those things that have happened in the past decade or so. That was how hunting got passed down. You either had to have a dad or an uncle or someone in your family or someone really close, a neighbor that was a hunter and is willing enough to introduce you to it, which is not always easy when you're taking kids and teens out. Like that's a task in and of itself. You're not doing much hunting on your own if that's the case. I think it's actually great that we have all these other avenues for people to kind of discover where they want to be and the things they want to pursue. And hunting, like you said, always been a really tight, gate-kept hobby. And I don't think for a long time it wasn't because it was meant to be. It was tough to get into. There's guns. If you're talking about upland bird hunting, there's dogs. There's all the laws and regulations. For a long time now, there's been hunter education, and like that's quite the thing to jump over without the help of what we have now on social media and other media outlets. So I think that's a really good point.
Yeah, where do you hunt? Like if you have no idea, if you have no background in it.
Oh yeah, where to go?
You just can't go wherever you want to. Like, you have to find a place to go. And especially now, I mean, OnX helps a lot because now we have at least public land stuff. But like, if you don't know where to go, that's a huge part.
Totally. And it's a daunting thing to get into it in adulthood, right? I think social media certainly has opened the door to finding more people that are interested and willing to, be a mentor to someone that's new to hunting. But, I remember when I did hunter safety out in California, I think it's you had to spend a total of 8 hours, 4 online, 4 in class to get your hunter safety license to even start. And, some of my acquaintances and friends that were hunters were like, I remember doing hunter safety as a kid, and I always wondered why there's like 30-year-old men sitting in class with me, right? So it's a daunting thing when you have to not jump through the loops, but go through the process of getting started,
Yeah,
for sure.
That's for sure. Like just
and I would say that for myself, I'm probably somewhat of a classic case of getting into the space through social media, through acquaintances. To your point, like I don't have an uncle that like a fuddy uncle that just lives in the woods for half of the year. No, I ended up getting into this through an automotive focused car group that had a forum and online presence. So there's an automotive car group that I've been a part of in the juvenile motorsports space, like drifting and that kind of stuff. That I put the line out and said, hey, I'm looking to get into this thing, and who is in Southern California that's able to show me the ropes or get me started or give me some tips. And coincidentally, one of the guys that reached out, who also lived in Southern California, is one of the best friends of my cousin.
Hmm.
So through, online
Right.
social media, I was able to find a dude that was, hunting since he was a kid with his pops and had a familial relationship. And, I think on Hack Outdoors, I wrote an article that gave my impressions and thoughts on one of my first deer hunts. And, when I met the dude, his name's Mike, and he shows up in some of my videos. The first time
Okay,
I met
yeah.
him was, 5 a.m. He's lighting up a cigar, and I was like, man, I didn't even think that it's a weird thing to do to light up a cigar at 5 a.m. until, I really took a step back and did the retro on it and was like, that is kind of a strange thing, right? But we're best friends today. He's the godparent to my oldest, and we have kids that are the same age, and it's one of those things that has created a very strong friendship and bond between the two of us.
Yeah, so I have seen your videos. I've seen the video of him with a cigar, and we're thinking, oh, that's like the coolest looking thing in the world. Like walking around with a shotgun out in the desert with a cigar like that. Like how cool is I never hunted with anyone with smoking a cigar as they hunt. I'm like, oh, that looks awesome.
Oh
That's
yeah,
like
I figured at
so
some point we'll
cool.
do like a good, the bad, and the ugly kind of thing. But yeah, no, he's
Yeah.
total cowboy.
That's
We
great.
love the hunting experience, the accoutrements, and being able to step out and like kind of be the real you when there's no one looking, right? I think that's
Yeah.
that's a cool thing.
Yeah, you can shed a lot of layers that you keep up in the city or even in the suburbs that and other hobbies too. When you're out on your own or out with just your friend or something, when you're out hunting, you can really be yourself, and it does have that freeing feeling. I've definitely felt that when I'm
yeah.
out there.
100%. And if you're with a partner, you get to know them really well. Sometimes I think people say you get to know them better than your wife in some points, right? When you're dealing with frustrations and tempers are high and water is low and people are getting highly annoyed with one another, you got to deal with it.
You have to, yeah.
Yeah.
You're out there and you wanted to go out and do it. Now you got to do it and deal with whatever comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've always noticed too, like I'll just talk about upland hunting with the dog. I know you have a from the videos. I think it's a relatively young Labrador right now. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But like when you're out there and you're like, I could just take my dog on a hike. That's fun. I could go to the clay range and shoot my shotgun. That's fun. I don't know what the equivalent of getting a bird would be. Go to KFC and get some chicken. I don't know, whatever. But like any of those things are fine. But when you put them together into upland bird hunting, like there's something that happens synergistically that like it really feels like the ultimate thing. Like what more could I be doing right now? I have my dog. I got man's best friend. I got my shotgun, and I'm out here in wilderness, in public lands, chasing wild animals in their domain. I'm probably going to lose today because most days I lose. Most days I don't get a bird. Um, like my wife was asking me the other day, like, can't you just take the dogs on a hike? Do you have to go out with a gun and go hunting, do all this stuff like and you're gone every weekend in October, November, December, January? And I'm like, no, I can't. Like, I'm sorry. Like I just kill me. If I can't go, just kill me. Like it's in my blood. And I've used to kind of think that was because it's how I was raised. But like my kids have no interest and they're exposed to it. They're cool. They understand the point of hunting. They're not like anti-hunters or whatever, like they're like, that's what dad does. It's fine. I'm not my thing. But I'm like, maybe it's just something that some people just have. And for people in your case, John, it's like, obviously that is your case. Like it's in you and you found it. And luckily you're able to find Mike and get out there and learn how to do it. But there's something about it that just feels complete when you're out there doing those things together and bringing them all together.
The wanderlust real.
Yeah, and like there's no cooler feeling, right? There's like you feel like a badass, right? You're hiking your dog. Yeah, you're checking that box. You get to carry a gun. You're checking that box. You feel really cool. You're accomplishing something. It's stacked experiences that are all rolled into one, and exponential reward when you're doing it. I'm with you.
It's true. I can't put a finger on it, but it's true. And I think anyone who's out there hunting, no matter when they start or how they started, they feel that if they're really into it and doing it. So yeah, for sure. Okay, let's talk about that lab. So you got a lab. Bruce, that's right. I was just trying to think of his name from the videos. But tell me about Bruce. How'd you come across him? Why'd you choose a Labrador? How's it going? How old is he? All the details about Bruce.
Yeah, so he certainly is a young lab. So last season was his first season. I think
Cool.
he was around 9 months old when the season started. Well, I don't know what the math is, but he was born in March. So yeah, around 8 or 9 months old when the season started. I've never had a bird dog. This is my first bird dog. I've had dogs my entire life, but and I certainly consider myself a dog person, and I don't know, a shitty version of a trainer. But for me, Bruce is my first bird dog, and my wife and I had made the decision to get another dog when my other dog started getting older. And I think when she opened up that door, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to start in my ADHD kind of fashion. I started doing a lot of research on various kinds of dogs, right? And I thought to myself, having, been an upland hunter without a dog, I thought to myself, all right, well, if I were to have a family crest, the Nguyen's don't have family crest, but if I were to have a family crest, what dog would show up on my family crest? That's the mindset I went into it with. And, my first options and, explorations were in the, the pointer space, right? I was looking at GSPs, I was looking at wire hairs, and I was like, what is the dog that I would have forever? But my wife also used to work in the veterinary field, and she goes, "You don't want a GSP, dude. They're insane, right? We don't have this, being that we are in the suburbs, we're not on multi acres. Like GSPs are insane." Was her take. She's like, "We can't do it. You don't have the time. You don't have the energy to deal with the day to day of a GSP." So we ended up going lab, and when I found when I started taking that route and looking at labs, they were very interesting to me. I've been a mutt guy, right? But when I started looking at labs, it started becoming very interesting to me, in terms of, there are lines that were full on hunters. I've always looked at labs as show dogs, right? Big barrel built, big old heads, show dogs with incredible temperaments. They love everybody, and being that we do have a young family, that's like the reason we went lab. I discovered that there's, an older line of lab, and, people will probably get upset that I will call him a red lab because, again, hunters are the worst gatekeepers, but
yeah.
Sure, he's a yellow lab, but like real dark and brown, so I'm going to call him a red lab for this case. But when I started looking at that, I learned, hey, there's, this undesirable color was more of a sportsman's dog. And when I started peeling the layers back on that, I was like, I could see a red lab on the Nguyen family crest, right? You have references to red dogs like Clifford, the big red dog, as a, person with kids yourself. And, that I found a local breeder that specializes in red labs. I looked at some of the more notorious probably the wrong word. The more famous breeders that, really have a proven line of red labs. But being that he's family first, we went with the local breeder, found him in this litter. His genetics, I think you guys had a podcast about pointing labs, but his genetics, I think way back have just like an eighth of, what is it, Helms Point Doctor in him. And the rest of him is, keepsake. But he's an American field lab. He's young. He's nothing that my wife expected in a lab, in that he's full octane. He jumps to heel like a kangaroo. So when he jumps to heel, we make eye contact before he hits the ground, right? So he's a full octane, wild lab. But I'm hoping, by this next season that he'll chill out just a bit, because they say, 2 years is the time they start to hang, be cool with hanging on. Right now he's somewhere, he's eating tissue paper behind me. So There you go.
Yeah, no, with if you have a good bird dog, like the first couple years are a lot of energy, a lot of like, what did I get myself into? I've never not felt that way with a bird dog. The first couple of years, I'm always like, why do I do this? My God. But it really, like, when you get him as a puppy, though, and like mine's sitting here, she came over to me right now for some reason, staring at me. But when you get him as a puppy, though, I think it really does pay off because they're so connected to you, especially flushing dogs, because they're meant to work with their handler, right? They're meant to work with you. And like a GS pig you brought up earlier, yeah, my sister has one, pure energy. Great dogs, great hunting dogs, but not for our family either. I totally get that. I grew up with labs, so I've just recently switched over to Springer Spaniels, but totally get it.
Yeah.
And you could say, yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, and sorry to hijack there, but there's such rich history there for such a common dog. When people talk about labs, it was my family dog growing up. It was, my childhood dog. I had friends with labs. And I think what's pictured, envisioned is kind of that bulky, husky kind of lab that just barrels around and eats all their food in one breath. It's certainly not the case with Bruce, and I think he still has all the qualities that we wanted in a lab, right? Those eyes, right? That connectedness, as you mentioned. What was it? Who was it? It was Eddie Bauer that said his favorite dog was Blackie, and he hopes to meet that dog back in heaven again when he passes.
Yeah.
There's such a richness to that, and I think that there's also a side of like a lab is like an everyman's dog, right? With the pointing breed, you gotta invest some time into getting them to hunt right, getting them the holds. It's a full-time job in itself, and I think with you, myself, people with young families, like I don't have that time to invest. I spend mornings with the dog to get him to do and perform the things that I want to enhance in him and his natural instinct. But have you seen the meme of the Olympic shooters?
Yeah.
Dukic in the Turkey shooter and the South Korean shooter. Yeah. I am Dukic. I'm the everyman, right? I want to just be able to do everything with my dog. He's not purpose built, but he's also the jack of all trades, the Swiss Army knife, the dog that'll just go out for you.
Yeah.
Yep. For sure. Yeah, there's pointer people get mad, but that's not our audience, so deal with the pointer people. But
I encourage getting pointer people mad. I think in one of my videos, like I call out GSPs, and one of my YouTube friends who's also a hunter in SoCal. He's SoCal, Central Cal. He commented on one of my videos, and he was like, "Man, Mina wanted to like dislike this video for your obscenities about GSPs."
but those dogs. I think this in Meat Eater. I think Steve Ranella said at one point, like, I think people with hunting dogs or bird hunters love their dogs more than hunting, or like enjoy doing stuff with their dogs more than hunting. And I think if you have a pointing breed, versatile breed, you really have to enjoy the dog work side of it, which I think is awesome. Like we had English pointers as a kid too, and that was cool. But like you said, I don't have a lot of time to be training all the time and going out into the field and buying birds and doing all of that. My Springer and the labs I've had, it's like a basic obedience, some basic stuff in the backyard, get them out there exposing them, and they figure it out. And if you're just out there to hunt and have a good time and shoot the birds you can get, like that's all you need in my opinion. But teach their own. But I'm with you on that. It's just nice to be able to do that. And then also, like my dogs are with me. I mean, you could have the pointer too, but they're with me all the time. Like they're always hanging out with me. I work from home and they're just sitting right at my feet all the time, or sitting here staring at me like, "Are you done working? Can we go for a tennis ball?" And it's nice having that connectedness that you get with the flushing dog, especially.
Oh yeah, totally. And I think what's incredibly interesting in my experience is I don't have a trainer's background. I looked at some YouTube videos for some training tips, basic obedience, getting dogs birdie and getting them excited about birds. to your point, I didn't buy a single bird with Bruce. I think his first exposure to moving birds was wild birds. And one of my good friends, when getting tips from him and getting Bruce to be birdie was, dude, wild birds make the dog. Like, get them on wild birds, they'll figure it out. And with Bruce, that's been the case. I think in one of the videos he stomps over a dead quail like 6 times before he realized what it was. But like by the end of the season, he was picking him up. He was bringing him to hand. He's tired an hour in, but you can see like exactly when he turns on. And when he turns on, I like click the GoPro, and that's how we're doing it here.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jared.
I was just saying that's kind of the same thing with because I have a newer dog. He's 4 months old, and the first couple of birds, doves mainly, he just barked at him. Birds that I shot, he just barked at him for a little while, and then kind of the last bird I shot, he actually just was like, "Oh, okay, this is what I'm doing," and picked it up and brought it to me. I'm like, all right, cool. Now at least you stopped barking. That's. But he said it's nice. It's kind of fun watching him kind of start he doesn't have it figured out yet, but just kind of watching. I'm not going to say the light bulb hasn't been switched yet, but there's a flicker there, and it's kind of nice watching the flicker start.
Oh, totally. And I think with Bruce's case, he's almost shining too bright, to use the bulb analogy. I got to keep him on like a correction collar to walk him around the neighborhood, because if there's a crow on the ground or like a duck on the ground, like he's breaking collar to like get at that thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Which is, something we got to dial it back now.
It's easier to reel a dog in than push a dog forward.
Totally.
Yeah. Oh yeah, especially when you have bird dogs. Like my dog's there's a irrigation canal behind my house, and it's just always full of mallards and Canada geese. And yeah, if I get him up there and walk, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this. Yeah, it's like my arms might fall off.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 100% there. So you're down in Southern California, and I see in your videos you're chasing a lot of California quail, valley quail, whatever you want to call them, and maybe some doves also, some mourning doves. So what's bird hunting like in Southern California? It's not known nationally as a mecca for bird hunting, but I have a feeling it's kind of a sneaky cool spot to hunt birds.
I don't know how I feel about answering that question. Like, if I answer this question, is people gonna be in my spot?
No, it sucks. You move on. It sucks. Don't go to California. I think most people in the hunting space, not to stereotype, but I'm going to stereotype, aren't looking to come to California. Like, just in the general hunting world, they're not like, let's go to California and hunt birds. I think you're safe, but tread the water so you want to tread them.
I'll give the honest answer here. So, I only have experience hunting in California. I have, exposure to other, people that have talked about hunting out of state. And I'm not limiting this to just upland hunting, but also, mule deer hunting, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's almost a misconception that California is so anti-hunting. It is so anti-gun. It is so anti-outdoorsman, and there's always things being locked down. I don't know if I agree with that sentiment, like, to the least. I think California probably has the most guns per capita, versus many states, right? We have a lot of people. We got a lot of guns. We have, a shit ton of public land. Like, you can hunt low desert, you can hunt high desert, you can hunt in mountains. I can go do a hunt in the morning and be in the ocean by the afternoon, right? Fishing or whatever it is. And in terms of, species and opportunities, we have, it really depends on how much work you put into it. I think I've been hunting deer for eight seasons, and I've connected twice on public land, and, some pretty good bucks too. I've seen bears during berry opportunities that I haven't taken shots on. We have a lot of those. And then in terms of upland, there's quite, I'll speak public land first, and then I'll talk about private. But for upland game, we got jacks, we have cottontails, we have California. I'm going to say California quail because, I'm going to make this a California podcast this time around.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
We have mountain quail, we have dove, we have, we have gambles here, and then we have hybrids. So there's a lot of public land opportunity in California if you know what you're looking for. And I see that you have a quail or Pheasants Forever hat on. I got my Quail Forever hat on, and
nice.
Joining any of those organizations, you start to get access to a lot of those things, right? Like not just knowledge, but also, you get maps to guzzlers. And if there's guzzlers in the desert, like I can make, A to B guess that says, hey, there's probably some opportunity out in that area. And yeah, I would say, California for me, I've not felt any sort of limit in adventure hunting.
It's a big state too. Like people, for listeners who don't know, if you listen for a while, you do. But Jared and I are up in Washington State, so just north of John, and it's a similar thing where people think of Washington, they think of Seattle and rain, and it's like we live in the high desert in eastern Washington. There's not a lot of people. There's a good amount of public land. I'm blowing up my spot now. It sucks. Don't come out here. Oregon's in a similar boat, and people think of Portland and stuff, and the thing is people forget, like, California's a big state, and it's maybe the most diverse when it comes to like ecosystems. I can't think of it. I mean, it has the highest point, the lowest point in the continental 48. So, and everything in between. So there's a lot out there, and
any terrain, imagine any terrain that you want to hunt.
Yeah.
Picture yourself hunting in. If you want to hunt alpine forest, if you want to hunt, Eastern Washington, it's all, sea of sagebrush, right? Sea of sagebrush, cottonwoods, and you have access to all of these things. Anything you imagine, any terrain you can imagine hunting, we have opportunities there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, that's cool. That's good to hear. You're out, because people right away would probably dismiss it, like, oh, you gotta come out to the Dakotas, or you gotta come out to Wisconsin or something and go chase birds over there. And it's like, you don't have to. Like, it'd be fun. I'm not knocking it, but there's birds. I think all over the West, there's places you might not have all the species in all places, but you have some species and you can get into it.
Yeah.
Well, and not everyone has the opportunity to be a career hunter, right? You have,
True.
We're talking about the everyman, right?
Yep.
Most opportunity and time in the field that I'm going to have is in my backyard.
Yep. And I'll tell you, Jared and I were talking about this earlier, is that, I really like your channel, on your YouTube channel, kind of for that reason. You can go out and watch some people who do some serious hunting all over the place, and they have some cool channels and put out some cool stuff, but it is really refreshing to watch someone. I'm like, hey, this guy hunts like I hunt. Like, he's out there with his dog. He trained it. Like, he doesn't have a trailer full of dogs. He's got his dog. He's got his gun, and he's out there huffing it and putting together a cool video. So sometimes you see people, not to knock them, but they'll get on YouTube and try to make videos, and they're everyman kind of situations, but it's like tough to watch. It's like one perspective, it's shaking around, but your videos are really, really great to watch. So like I saw those and I'm like, I wonder if we can get them on our show, because I love watching these videos. These are great. So yeah, but I love seeing that perspective, because I think that's most hunters are that, right? So it's cool seeing it represented that way.
Yeah, and then, and thank you for the kind words. I like making the videos, right? And I think for me, part of that enjoyment is documenting the experience for myself, and then through YouTube. I don't have a huge following, but like even with a small YouTube channel, I've found some great opportunities and made some great connections. With Bruce. Sorry, he's like chewing my chair right now. Stop it. With before I had Bruce, I made a connection with a viewer that has become friends, and she had a quail farm. And so, I never used any of her birds in terms of live birds, but like if one flew into its cage and broke its neck, she would, say, hey, I got some birds in the freezer for you to use as training tools.
Nice.
And I was able to, and she was a trainer in a previous life, and, a NAVDA member. And I had great tips from her. And then through others, I've found, training tips and how to get this dude to do what I want him to do. Yeah, it's been a great resource for me as someone just interested in, learning more about the journey. So I'm glad you guys found me.
Yeah, the community is awesome, honestly. Like just maybe not the algorithms and stuff like that, but I mean, it's nice just like seeing different people and stuff like that, and just you kind of make a lot of just odd connections that you probably wouldn't have made outside of like, the space that you're in kind of stuff, which is kind of nice. But the cool part I noticed about your videos is there's flat out not a lot of flusher videos out there. Like, I'm assuming it's probably because it's a lot harder to, you can't really like, hey, my dog's on point, turn the camera on. It's kind of like you said, you kind of dog pretty well and just hope for the best and turn the camera on and kind of go from there. I was kind of curious what your me and Matt have been toying with the idea of maybe doing a YouTube channel kind of stuff. But also I'm kind of curious, not to take away from your viewers and stuff like that. But I'm kind of curious what your setup is.
Yeah, so I'm pretty simple. I have a GoPro 12.
Okay.
I put a clip on my hat, and I just look for shots that I want, and then the action shots kind of show up when the dog gets birdie. I'll put B-roll to something. I'll take a couple of like 5 to 15 second clips in here, and then just kind of merge them into the video to better tell a story.
Gotcha.
I will say there are videos where I put a lot of effort into and they turn out really well. And then there's videos that I'm just like, dude, I just need to like get through this footage from last season. I think I just uploaded a month ago the last hunt from last season, but that's because, we had another kid that came and, time is a bit sporadic to find time to edit down video. But for me, it's just, I have a GoPro and I'll put it together. I'd like to, at some point, put some aerial footage, in some of these videos and really get into, to your point, like, hunting in the backyard, the everyman, the a different view on the guy that hunts just like you do. The comment I thought you were going to make, Matt, is, man, this guy misses a whole bunch just like me. I take a lot of shots.
You think I miss birds? Is that what you're trying to say?
Oh no, I miss a ton of birds.
No, me too.
Yeah, but I think that's part of it with the flushing dog, right? I try to get him into my zone, but when he starts to get outside of my zone, he's looking for birds, even if there's a bird on the ground, right? So can I take the shot? Can I not take the shot? Is it too far out? I'll probably take a poke either way and expend a shell. But I think to go back to your sentiment around not a lot of videos of people hunting upland in the West with flushing dogs. It's for me, I like making videos first and foremost. This is the deck of cards that I've given myself, and it's an exciting way to hunt. I not that I've had a ton of experience hunting behind pointing dogs, but seeing birds flush when you're not expecting them to, and working with the dog that's looking to put a bird in its mouth like off of the ground. I think that's a cool thing. I think we're both hunting, and I'm this dude's backup, right? Versus he's doing the hunting. I'm backing him up if the bird escapes his clutches. So for me, that's good enough, and I like it a whole bunch.
That's actually a good point, because a dog would, like, if he could catch the bird, that's what he wants to do. But it's just they often don't. Yeah, so you really are his backup. I always think of it as a team, but because I'm seeing it from the human perspective. But that's actually true. The dog, like Bridget, my younger Springer, she's starting to like leap after the birds when they flush. So it's like she's definitely trying to catch that bird. Hasn't yet. But I had a lab catch a rooster once when I was a teenager. So that was something.
In one of those videos, there's a really cool shot that I didn't end up shooting because Bruce chased the bird inches from its tail feathers for, I don't know, like 100 yards before it decided to fly back up. to get out of his range, but he was, bolting for it. It's cool to watch.
It is.
So to tell an everyman story on that note, then just last year, I forgot all about this. My brother and I were out hunting. He had his younger yellow lab, and then I had one Springer. And my Springer flushed the rooster, and I shot it and I winged it. And it's now on the ground running. Instead of running, it could have ran left into cover, and it would have been, we probably would have recovered with the dogs, but it would have been a little work. It ran right just into the open like dirt road and kind of dirt area. And I go kind of run up there thinking, well, if the dogs aren't grabbing, I'm gonna go grab it. And it's winged, running in circles. It ran under my legs at one point. My dogs, both dogs are chasing it under my legs. And then finally my brother walked over, and I think he ended up grabbing it. I forgot if a dog got it or he got it. But like that's the kind of stuff that, you're never gonna see that on these bigger productions, But that stuff happens every season. Something funny and weird where you're like, why did that just happen? Like that's hopefully no one was looking.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I have a similar story from the last video I did, and that was, I put a bird down and Bruce found it, but he wouldn't bring it to me. He just parked his happy ass right next to the bird. I'm like, dude, like, why aren't you bringing me this bird? You've been doing this all day. What's the problem? And I realized it's because this lab is so pure of heart that bird was still alive, and he just parked, paws right next to that bird until, I came over and had to pick it up and do the old towel flick dispatch. But yeah, no, he didn't even keep it in his mouth. He just kept it right next to him. And as soon as that bird would flutter, he would, mouth the bird, but the bird was totally fine. Just a beautiful soft mouth dog.
Yeah. Hey, yeah. Not ruining any meat.
Yeah.
That's great. So you went from hunting with no dog to hunting with a dog. So what was that transition like? What changed? Good or bad or anything?
Yeah. So I feel like I'm going to embarrass myself on this one, but hunting without a dog is super exciting, but totally different in that, when we work backwards here. Hunting with Bruce, I follow Bruce's nose, which is super fun, right? He's looking for them. He marks all of the bushes and trees where the birds have been, and if we hunt the same area, he's looking in those places. Hunting without a dog is like you're just blue collar beer drinking kind of hunting where like with Mike we will cruise the backcountry in whatever 4x4s, and we're just eyeballing for birds, and if we see a covey, we drive as fast as we can towards that covey. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but one of us will hop out of the car, load shells into our shotgun as fast as we can, and just try to get them to stop running away, right? Because if they're running on foot, they're just going to kite us, and we're never going to be able to catch them. So, our tactic has been like as a kind of a beer drinking tactic in that we will drive around, look for a covey, and if we find a covey, we'll do some Dukes of Hazzard style shit. And then, one of us will roll out of a moving car and load shells, try to bust them up. And once they're busted up, then, the hunt is on. And once they're busted up, it's bush kicking. And, if there are listeners out there that haven't hunted without a dog, you get real in tune with what kind of bushes quail like to hold in. You get real in tune with where the coveys like to be in certain times of the day. And I think, for me, it's probably made me a bit of a better hunter, just kind of putting those things together, and then adding a dog to the mix is kind of like turning on the cheat codes.
Yeah. No, it's true. Like, I feel like when you're a dogless hunter, which I was for a little bit, it's like all bets are off. Like all tactics are on the table because it's so difficult. Like, but once you have a dog, it's like you were saying, like the dog, like Bruce sat there next to the bird. It's like, oh, it's awesome. But if you didn't have a dog, you'd be like jumping on that bird, like don't run away, don't, you know what I mean? If it was still alive. But with a dog, you can kind of take the time to appreciate those things. But yeah, Jared, I've said it before, but because Jared just got his puppy before that, he was dogless for a little bit, and I'd be out hunting with a handful of dogs, and he'd be hunting somewhere else, and we have no birds, and he'd text me and be like, look, a quail, look, a pheasant. And I'm like, how are you doing this without a dog? So he's like the pro dogless hunter for a little bit there.
Yeah, well, I mean, that was it was like either I'm gonna go hunting or I'm just gonna stay at home. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm just gonna go because I don't want to stay at home. So I'm just I gotta figure this shit out and do what I can. And there was a lot of times I didn't send you pictures because I didn't get anything. This is social media way, he's this is the good stuff. But it's kind of an interesting kind of like, I guess, difference, because there's a lot of different, like, I've noticed that, granted, this is my first season with Bones. We've only hunted a handful of times, but me doing something where I'm like, all right, well, I would go here, but my dog is telling me he wants to go over here. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, I want to go over here, but my dog is wanting to go over there. So he knows, I mean, he's 4 months old, so he probably doesn't know more than I do at this point. But I mean, like, he's got a better nose than I do, so we're just going to follow him. We're going to figure this out together. And it's a fun learning kind of opportunity thing together with us, which is, I don't know, it's added more to the hunt, I think, than what I expected.
Oh, totally. I absolutely agree. And with when being that it was Bruce's first season, I certainly shared the same, challenges with the dog. Like, why do you want to go that way? Like, that way looks like it sucks. Like, there's no trees over, or there's no bushes over there. Why are you going this way? And then, lo and behold, the quail will flush. I'm like, all right, I'll give you the credit for this, but
right. That one.
But it was uphill, and I wanted to go downhill. Like, I'm lazy.
Yep.
Yeah. That's part of the reason I avoid pointers. I'm like, you point way over there. I don't want to walk over there. That looks awful. Like, all the way up there. We're gonna have to go now. With a flusher though, you can guide the way, but definitely there's something almost like meditative. If you can get into a rhythm, and you've both probably been in this at some point. Sometimes it's tough to get into, but if you have a dog that can work close with you, and you don't have to be talking all the time with a flusher, just watching them work, you can kind of fall into this. I don't want to say trance, but for lack of a term, I'll say trance of just watching the dog work and watching it becomes meditative, and then all of a sudden there's this flush that then you have to then go from that meditative trance-like state to complete reactions, get your gun up, get the bird, and then into like the frontal lobe of your brain state of working the dog to find the bird and those kinds of things. It's like you're hitting all cylinders. Like, I've really been trying to think about what is it about hunting with a dog, again, with wild birds that really gets the serotonin flowing, and you can fall into that state. And if you can get into that and go back and forth out of it, man, what a day. I had last year, my brother and I took my dad to central Montana to take him pheasant hunting for his retirement gift. And my brother and my dad waited at the truck, and we hunted this tree line that seemed to go on forever on public land. And we're like, let's just get on either side of that tree, load with the dog, and go. And we were just dead quiet. Dogs working in front of us. And it was like that. And they were flushing hens back and forth, and some roosters were flushing out in front. I think we got a bird out of there. But it was just like, I could do this. If this tree line went on forever, like, must be what heaven is, because this is what, like, just walking along here and watching my dog and then a random flush and flinching to get my gun up is a pretty great thing.
Oh, I have hunting dreams just like you. Like, I will actually have hunting dreams where I'm just, walking through and finding incredible creatures. And yeah, I'm with you. And just to circle back to the other, sorry, Bruce has decided to climb on top of me.
Yeah.
Buddy. Hunting without a dog. You pointed it out earlier. You often don't come back with many birds, and when you do come back with one or two birds, you're so stoked, right? It's like, I did this.
Hard one.
But you often come back, with nothing in the bag. But yeah, it makes you tougher. You got to find those things.
Yeah. That's probably the way to do it, right? Dogless, and then get a dog so you're not spoiled. Like, you got to work, and then you go, oh, you have a dog. Like you said, the cheat codes are on now, and now let's do this. Let's do it this way.
Oh, if I didn't have a dog, I'd just go out to go hunting, because I want to be out there.
Yeah.
Probably with a cigar in the mouth, just looking at cool stuff, having that, I don't know what you guys do for your day jobs, but, like you right now, I'm remote. I just sit at a desk all day, and there's noise, and there's distractions, and there's kids, and there's TVs on, and there's air fryers, and all that noise of that day-to-day life just kind of disappears when, you have that open air in front of you, and there's quiet. And then when that quiet is disrupted by, a flush or the fluttering of a single bird, you're like, okay, like I'm feeling like a person.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Like if you're out, anytime I'm hunting, I can't think about work and all the other things in my life if I wanted to. Like I was out earlier, and I was just like thinking about that, and I was like, I'm gonna think about this problem at work and see if I even can. I'm like, I couldn't. Like there's too much other stuff going on. I'm like, oh, this is great. Yeah, you're right. And that flush happens. It's that's kind of the point where you get, like, you're completely in the present moment. Like I don't know if there's another time in my life I'm more in the present than when a flush happens. So, and I don't know, just knocking the pointers some more because this is go flush yourself. But like I don't get as much as the pointer because there's kind of like a ease into it. It's like there's a point, okay, a flush is going to happen. Like with a flusher, yeah, you don't get the warning, and there's definitely detriment to that. But like the flush is just out of nowhere, and you go from 0 to 100 in half a second.
Yeah. You gotta spin. You gotta be good at the spin.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those flushes behind you.
But I remember in adulthood, and when I was a kid, I'd shoot quail with a slingshot or whatever. But as an adult, I still remember my first experience hearing a mountain quail cut the dead silence of a deer hunting morning. Right? It sounded like 2 Army helicopters flying overhead, and it's like you can't beat that, man. If you have pure silence, and then all of a sudden this giant noise coming from 2, small birds comes across you, man. That's a cool thing, especially when it comes out from under your feet.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's the best. Yeah.
It's a fantastic noise.
So I also saw the video where you made your own quail call, and that's maybe my favorite video of yours because like you build the call, and then you go out and you're like just trying to call them, and then you're hearing them call back. I'm like, man, I know that I haven't built my own, but I have my own. And I remember taking my son out when he's little and trying to show him like, no, they'll talk back to you, and then they would, and he was like, oh my gosh, like, that was a cool video. Was that your first time making a quail call? Have you done that before, or what gave you the inspiration?
Yeah, it was my first time making a quail call. Looking up. So another YouTube dude, the Roaming Hazard, he makes quail calls for people to purchase, also giveaways for Quail Forever events, and I saw him make those. I'm like, man, I'm a woodworker, like I could do that, and looking at a couple designs online and figuring out how the vibrations work and what makes sense to do. Oh, it came naturally to, I should say it came together very quickly for me. Oh, it's, 2 pieces of wood. You have a channel in the middle. You take a rubber band, you stretch it out to the right level of vibration. Similar, I used to play saxophone in high school. So, you make the reed, and it's kind of like, if you were ever a bored kid without an iPad, like taking that blade of grass, putting it between your fingers, blowing through it. It's that concept, but with things that aren't grass. And fortunately, that week that I made that call, I was at my buddy's house, and his house backs up to a nature preserve. That's a lot of cholla cactuses, a lot of prickly pear cactuses, and a lot of quail and a lot of coyotes. So being able to call them and hear the response was, a very cool thing. Normally when we're out hunting, I'll make the mouth call, right? I'll do the whistle, and I'll sometimes get a call back. But having a tuned call that sounds real similar to a quail call was a real cool thing.
Yeah, you've inspired me though. I've always had a store-bought one in my pocket for that exact reason. Like just a locator, like it kind of gives you an idea what's out there. Um, but not now. I want to make my own.
You can make one. It'll take you 3 hours. I think you can do it in 3 hours.
Okay.
Like as an amateur dude, you could do it in an hour. As you know, to get it right and tuned as
Right.
someone who's really familiar with it.
That's cool. Yeah, sounds fun. I definitely want to try it now after watching that. I watched that video just a few days ago, and I'm like, oh man, that's so cool. I never thought about doing that. Because like a duck call seems intimidating to make that. Like, oh my gosh, like that has to be so difficult. But I'm like, oh wait, I can do a quail call.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a comment in that video that one of the commenters of that video shared. Dude, I was playing this video at full volume, and then I heard quail calling me from that video, and I was like, that's pretty cool, man.
That's cool. That's validation right there.
Yeah.
All right. Was there anything else that we haven't asked you that you thought would be cool to talk about? Or anything you've been thinking about you'd like to share with our audience?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I don't have, I'm not a great closer on these thoughts, but my closing thoughts would be, if there's anyone that hasn't pulled the trigger on getting a Flushing dog or getting into upland hunting, or thinks that it's so involved, like take me as an example, just someone that just decided to go after it and found the right mentors and found the right YouTube videos to look at to learn things. It's the barrier to entry for upland hunting is probably the smaller of the barriers in the hunting space. I can do it with kids. I can serve my oldest breakfast before I get out of the house for a hunt with Bruce, right? Because I'm doing it in my backyard. Deer hunting, you're up at 3:30 a.m. Like if you have a young family, this is like the thing to do. And you can, start your day after breakfast, come home, early afternoon and still be a family man. I think that's one of the beautiful things about upland hunting. And that's not to say that it's not hardcore by any means, but it's accessible, and that's I think important.
Yeah, like I have 2 teenagers, so they sleep in, but like I can slip out on a Saturday morning and get back, and they're just getting out of bed. And it's like Dad was never gone, and I wouldn't have had a adventure with the dogs, So yeah, for sure. And the other thing too, like it's got me thinking, like the upland community. I'll stick it with upland. It's more diverse than people think.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get a stereotype in your head of what someone looks like and what their beliefs are and all these different things for a hunter, especially if you're not a hunter, especially if you're maybe from the city and you're not exposed to it at all. But once you get into the space and start meeting people in the space, it's like people come from and start later in life. People start with their kids. People have all these different, like I had a Pheasants Forever meeting last month, and it was like there's people there that from all walks of life that wanted to come and it was our first meeting for our chapter, come and see what we were doing, what we're up to. So like if you're out there and you want to get into bird hunting, like, and don't think of, well, I'm not this kind of person. Like, no, you can, that doesn't matter at all. Like I've met so many people now who started in so many different ways, and your story's not unique, but it's also unique, and on how you got into bird hunting. But yeah, definitely don't be intimidated by trying to get into it. There's everyone out there, even if they're completely different from you, they're going to be like, I want to help you, because people are passionate about this stuff and people like sharing their passions.
Yeah. I like to say that bird hunting is presidential, right? There's a history of U.S. presidents and having to be a bird hunter in order to get the presidential bid. So
that's true.
It's
for a long time.
It's presidential. You can drive your Range Rover. You can, roll up to your spot on your air suspension and feel like you're, a presidential white collar kind of hunter.
Yeah. You can wear your tie like they do over in the UK, and
that's right.
You do whatever you wanted. Yeah, it's wide open, man.
Yeah.
Hunting like a newsie.
There you go.
Jared, do you have anything, any other questions for John or anything else?
I did. So this is kind of tangent, or not tangent, but a departure from the bird hunting thing. So John, I saw in your videos that you shoot USPSA. Is that true?
I've shot USPSA, so
Oh.
I wouldn't say I shoot it often.
Okay.
That video was a kind of an arm wrestling match between me and my cousin. We we decided, hey dude, who do you think would shoot better in a competition? I like to take everything as a competition, and so we found a local USPSA match. I hadn't shot this handgun in almost 2 decades since I've been to the range, and my cousin had just got his CCW on this gun, and we are like, let's go shoot, let's go see who's quicker with the steel. And without ruining, I'll ruin the I'll spoil it. I beat my cousin, and I'm pretty sure that both of us scored almost second or third to dead last.
Nice.
In all shooters. So It's not very good. There's a lot of fumbles, a lot of penalties.
Yeah.
But it was a good time. It's pretty daunting shooting one of those things, especially with how quick people are, man. It makes me realize that when people talk about your apocalyptic dystopian scenarios, like, dude, I'm gonna lose so quickly in any sort of scenario that involves a gunfight. Like, I'm dead.
Yeah. Yeah,
you and Bruce can be eating some quail, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, my tactic is to stay away from people. That's.
Yeah, I used to shoot competitively, so I shot USPSA for a long time, so I was kind of curious what your experience was with that. But yeah, it's a good time.
I'd shoot it again.
Yeah.
I would shoot it again. I think I would take it. I guess as a USPSA shooter, I mean, you've been doing it for a while, so you don't get the nerves and you don't get
Oh, I still get the nerves.
You still get the nerves because I get like the sweaty palms. I get the jitters. I think in that video, my cousin and I, our ears turn off. We miss instructions. There at some point people felt so bad for me in my group that they were starting to shout locations of targets because I kept missing. So they're like, left, around that, Hey.
Yeah.
So, I would say if, someone wants to feel very humbled and alive, that's a great way to do it.
It is really a humbling experience when you think, you're just shot by yourself for a while and you're just like, you know what, I think I'm pretty good. And then you go shoot a USPSA match and you're just like, well, I'm not. Very humbling experience, but it's a good experience to have because at least it's a gut check. Kind of tells you, I'm like, all right, well, I'm not nearly as good as I thought I was.
I encourage anyone who is, spending extra money modifying their guns or have guns as their entire personality to go shoot a USPSA match. Because, I have, in the neighborhood we live in, there's a lot of those types.
Yep.
And, like wannabe survivalist types, right? Like, let it happen,
Yeah.
I had one guy talk about how he's worried that Hamas is going to take over. And I go, in Temecula, dude? Like, not out here, buddy. But, it's like, you want to get humbled and you want to really understand your capability with a firearm. That's the way to do it. Because, yeah. You're not, the dudes from the Boondock Saints, right?
not a John Wick fantasy. So,
that's right.
Yeah. Good times. All right.
Cool.
Yeah.
So John, what you can go ahead and kind of tell us, people can tell listeners where they can find you, either social media, your YouTube channel, Hack Outdoors. Give us the full spiel on where people can find you.
Yeah. So my YouTube channel is Jon Nguyen. It's JONHOAN. You can find me on Instagram at Jon Nguyen, which is even a more difficult spelling. JONHOANNGUYEN. And if you really just want to find me easily, go to hackoutdoors.com. It's my website about making, the outdoors more accessible to people that don't have a ton of experience in the outdoors. I didn't grow up with, as mentioned earlier, I didn't grow up with, a really outdoorsy family, but I myself got into, being able to make a friction fire with, sticks like a caveman. I've learned a lot of things and I share that knowledge, and it's it shouldn't be daunting for people, and it's an incredibly enjoyable thing, as you guys are aware.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll have all of those in our show notes. So if anyone wants to click on those and check you out, Jon. But thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it. Appreciate the conversation.
Matt, Jared, thanks so much for having me. This was fun.
I hope you enjoyed that interview with Jon. We sure did. We had a great conversation. Definitely going to have Jon on again. We've mentioned this before on the podcast and a little bit on social media, but I also run a Facebook page called Bird Dog Portraits, where I actually create portraits of your bird dog, other pets as well, but mostly bird dogs. Essentially, I create these by hand on my iPad with Apple Pencil. I'll take some reference photos and create a digital art portrait of your bird dog. If you're interested in getting a portrait of your dog, these are done at no cost. So I know this can be expensive to get this done. I do it at no cost. I enjoy doing it. I've always loved drawing and painting, and I love bird dogs. So this is great content for me to get all sorts of breeds and all sorts of dogs out there to do this. If you are just itching to do something, instead of trying to send me money, which I will not let you do, you can actually donate to like Pheasants Forever or Rough Grouse Society or a conservation organization of your choosing, or even like the animal shelter, or to other kind of dog or outdoor related nonprofits. So if you feel like you must, you can do that, but no pressure to even do that. This is all just something I enjoy to do, and like seeing people get their portraits and be excited to see them and have a nice memento of their dog. So if you want to, go to Facebook, check out Bird Dog Portraits. There's a page in there. Give us a follow and check out some of the portraits I'm putting out. And if you want a portrait of your dog, just send me a message. There's more on the FAQs on that site. Thank you for listening to another episode of the Go Flush Yourself podcast. Check us out on social media on Instagram, Facebook, and X. We also have a Patreon, where for a $2 a month subscription, you can help keep our podcast on the air. We also have merchandise available. Please check out the podcast description or the Patreon page for links to merchandise.